This is The Minimum Commitment, film theory in small doses. Imagine discovering that every memory you cherish, every relationship you hold dear, and every story you have ever told yourself about who you are was placed there by someone else. Would you still be you? That question sits at the center of Moon by Duncan Jones. Set on a remote lunar mining station and carried almost entirely by Sam Rockwell's remarkable performance, the film begins as a story about isolation and gradually opens into something much larger. A meditation on identity, on who we are, on how we become ourselves, and on who gets to decide. I'm Don Lawler, film scholar, sound obsessive, and someone who believes some of the best science fiction is not really interested in the future at all. It is interested in us. Let's get into it. Moon was released in 2009 with Sam Rockwell as Sam Bell, a worker nearing the end of a 3-year contract with Lunar Industries. His job is simple: maintain the mining equipment, harvest helium-3, wait to go home. The station is quiet. The routines are familiar. The days blur together. Moon dust covers everything. The vehicles, the equipment, even Sam himself. The environment has already told you what kind of place this is long before the plot does. This is not somewhere people visit. It is somewhere people endure. And as the film unfolds, the distance between endurance and imprisonment becomes harder and harder to ignore. Identity is the right place to start. Not identity as a label, identity as a philosophical problem. What makes you, you? Is it memory, experience, your body, your relationships, your choices? Most of us never have to ask those questions because our lives move forward in a straight line. This film destroys that comfortable illusion. The film takes identity apart piece by piece and asks whether the self is something we possess or something we keep making. One moment in the film stood out to me immediately. Sam encounters an area where long-range communications no longer function. The system treats it as normal. So does Sam, at least at first. What fascinated me was not the malfunction. It was his acceptance of it. The perimeter of the prison has become invisible. Routine has turned confinement into normality. The system works because its boundaries no longer seem suspicious. That matters because many forms of control work the same way. The most effective cages are often the ones we stop noticing. As the mystery unfolds, another question emerges. Who owns a life? Lunar Industries controls everything: the station, the information, the communication systems. the memories, even the workers themselves. The corporation has extended ownership beyond labor and into identity. That idea places Moon alongside films like Alien, Blade Runner, and Outland. Each presents a frontier workplace where human beings become resources to be managed. The technology changes, the planets change, the corporations change. The underlying concern remains remarkably consistent. What happens when people become products? Moon takes that question further than most. The company doesn't simply employ Sam. It made him. One of my favorite observations while watching the film was this: if the moon is a place where people meet themselves, then the moon is hell. Because that's exactly what happens. The science fiction premise lets Duncan Jones externalize something deeply human. Most of us carry multiple versions of ourselves. The person we were, the person we hoped to become, the person we became instead. Those conversations usually happen inside our heads. Sam Bell gets to have them face to face. The result is fascinating because the conflict isn't between hero and villain. It's between competing versions of identity. Each Sam sees himself reflected in the other. Each forces the other to confront uncomfortable truths. And in doing so, the film asks one of its most important questions. If two people share the same memories, where does individuality begin? Then there's Gertie, one of the most interesting artificial intelligences in modern science fiction. The emoji faces immediately caught my attention. Smiles, frowns, symbols of emotion. Tiny digital masks. At first they seem almost humorous. Then they become strangely unsettling. Gertie performs emotion. Sam experiences it. That distinction matters because throughout the film, the machine communicates humanity through symbols, while the manufactured human embodies it through lived experience. The contrast creates one of the film's most fascinating reversals. The artificial intelligence behaves with compassion. The corporation behaves with indifference. The most disturbing discovery in Moon isn't death. It's replacement. The corporation has already prepared the next worker, the next version, the next Sam. His life has been reduced to a cycle, a production schedule. He is an expendable unit. And that's where the film becomes unexpectedly emotional. Because every version of Sam feels real. Every version suffers and hopes. Every version dreams of home. The company may view them as products, but the audience never does. The film repeatedly insists upon their humanity. That insistence matters because it pushes back. This film does not work without Sam Rockwell. He isn't simply playing multiple characters. He's playing identity itself. The subtle distinctions between the Sams carry enormous weight. A gesture, a tone of voice, a posture. a reaction. Rockwell creates individuals from nearly identical material. The result allows the audience to believe in something extraordinary, that multiple versions of the same person can still become unique human beings. Throughout the film, institutions attempt to define Sam Bell. They define his purpose, his lifespan, his memories, his value. Yet every version of Sam continues searching for something those systems cannot manufacture: a sense of self, the right to determine who he is. That is why Moon still resonates, because every human being eventually encounters forces that try to define them. Families, employers, governments, cultures, expectations. The film does not ask us to reject those influences. It asks us to notice where identity lives, whether in the stories we are given or in the choices we make. That's your thought for the day. Minimum commitment, maximum meaning. See you next time. The Minimum Commitment is produced, recorded, and edited by Don Lawler. Music by Don Lawler.